My name is Duane. I'm an alcoholic. Hey, guys. My sobriety birthday is March 27th.
Very cool.
2010. I get to be sweet 16 with you guys. I get to turn 16 and tell my story. I've never done that before, and it's an absolute honor. Karen, Jared, you guys, thank you so much. Everyone that had a hand in putting on this conference, thank you so much for the opportunity. It's extremely unlikely that I would be here telling my story on my 16th birthday when exactly 16 years ago I crawled out of the hospital bleeding from my alcoholism. And now I get to stand up here with you tonight and share the message of Alcoholics Anonymous, how that's transformed my life, how that transforms our life when we work this program together. So I asked Karen when I met her, I said, did you know that it was my birthday? And she was like, no, absolutely not. And I don't possess that type of timing, and I don't possess that type of planning. That's not me. I am just not that good. And that's a power greater than me. So I'm extremely grateful to be here, and I'm honored to share this evening. So thank you. Thank you so much, Jared, for hosting. You've been a blast to hang out with. It was like that. It was fast friends, and we speak the language of the heart in here, and we're able to do that. So, I'll do my best to stick to the 12 steps of AA because that's what worked for me. Alcoholics Anonymous has transformed my life into a life worth living. I really, really wish that it was bubble baths, chocolate, and masturbation that got us well. I really wish that's what it was. It just never worked for me. I didn't get well doing that. That's that BB. You guys know what BB is? I said, me neither, but it's not freaking AA. And then Karen put us in the honeymoon suite. It's got a jacuzzi upstairs. The jacuzzi's in the living room. And I was like, there's the bubble bath. So I'll do my best to stick to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous tonight, not float off too much. I also want to thank my partner, Emma, so much for being here. I love you. Your support means the world to me. If I'm winking, it's not at these two gentlemen with beards right behind you. So, guys, I was born in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I had a great childhood. My parents worked very hard to provide for us. When I wanted new shoes, I had new shoes. If I wanted to play sports, I got to play sports. My dad had permanent dirt inside his hands. He was a mechanical contractor, plumbing and heating, and he worked that hard to provide for us. And I say that just because it doesn't really matter where we come from. It doesn't matter if you're well off. It doesn't matter if you come from the streets. I can still have this thing called alcoholism. And, I never really had a strong, I never fit in with my family. I didn't feel like I belonged, but I snuck a beer right around age 12. And I remember it was a Bud Light. I remember it tasted awful. And I remember the dopamine hitting my brain like, oh gosh, this is what's going on here. And I felt excited. I felt that joy. I felt what was going on was dopamine, and I couldn't wait to do it again. I also felt that like I was doing something sneaky. Around 12, you're not supposed to be drinking, and there was an additional adrenaline rush with the dopamine because I was doing something sneaky, and I started to feel good. I didn't drink after that for a while. I was always very athletic growing up. Like I said, if I wanted to play sports, I got to play sports. When I was 14, I had made the varsity football team there in Santa Fe. And they were like, hey, you're going to play with the big boys? You can come hang out with the big boys. And so I went to my first high school football party the Friday night before the Saturday game. And it was not long before I had a bomber in one hand, I had a dip in my lip, and I started to swim, And again, boom, that dopamine hit, and I was like, just whatever this is, more of that. I went around the corner at the house, vomited, felt horrible, and then made out with some poor girl. And then my mom had to come pick me up because I couldn't even drive yet. My drinking career skyrocketed at 14. I have to tell you, that's kind of like the highlight for me. That's as good as it got for me. It didn't get much better than that for the rest of the story. But I couldn't wait to do it again. I couldn't wait to chase that hit that I got from alcohol. So it progressed very quickly for me. It was every weekend. Where can we drink? We cannot do this at my house. We got to find someone else's house. Who's holding? Who can score us beer? Who can score us alcohol? The progression was fast. I'll hit you guys with a few quick qualifiers so that you know I belong, but I don't want to stay drunk too long. In high school, my nickname was Chili Willy. We used to do these things called Chili Willies. If any of you are planning on relapsing, I would highly suggest doing this. It will get you back to Alcoholics Anonymous quick. So we would take a shot glass and we'd flip it upside down. The bottom of the shot glass has a little cup as well. It's like a little rim. And we would fill that up with whatever it was we were drinking. Vodka, tequila, usually. And then you needed something to like bite on. Like a washcloth worked really good, a wooden spoon worked. And then we would hover over the alcohol in the bottom of that glass and we would snort it. It would send shivers down your spine, and we called them Chili Willies. Wet brain, sign me up. I'm ready for it. If I tell you nothing else about my drinking, that qualifies me for the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I know that I'm in the right room tonight. Honestly, that's as good as it got for me. Like, it wasn't any prettier than that. The progression was fast. I was a blackout drinker from the beginning. I'm 5'7". I drink like I'm 6'7". I always have. If I'm drinking alone, I need a whole bottle. If there's going to be two or more of us, we need 2 bottles. That's the way I drank from the beginning. And I chased that feeling for a long time. And the consequences started piling up. The trips to jail started happening. Waking up with vomit on me started happening. Waking up with blood on me started happening. I said, whose blood is this? They said, that's your blood, Duane. I said, did I hurt anybody last night? They said, yeah, you hurt me. You hurt me last night. And so the consequences started happening very rapidly for me with my alcoholism. I got sent to treatment when I was 18. Basically, it was like a month off of school for me. I treated it like a little vacation. And I was not ready to stop drinking, but I did hear the message of Alcoholics Anonymous. They had put us in the druggy buggies there at the treatment center, and they'd drive us, from meeting to meeting. And we'd, pour out of the druggy buggy and go sit in the back seat in Serenity Row. And I was not ready to get sober. But I saw people who drank like me laughing about it. I heard that language of the heart that takes place in here, and I thought, man, I would never tell anybody that kind of stuff. And the seed was planted. So when I was ready, I knew where to go. I drank for another 3 years. Another 3 years after that first trip to rehab. My sponsor likes to tease me. He said, where's your big book? I said, it's right here. He says, that cost you $86,000, right? I said, yeah, I know. I went to treatment twice. So I was ready to go back when, 3 years after that. The sequence of events, it's a little like foggy, but I was there in Taos, and I was working at the ski valley. And I was getting bussed. They were still doing the little druggy buggies. They were bussing me to the morning meeting there in Taos. And it's the 8 o'clock morning meeting. We're sitting in Serenity Row, and me and my buddy Mac, I wasn't very spiritual. I grew up Catholic. I had a great experience in the Catholic Church. Don't knock it at all. But at that time in my life, I was not very spiritual. I didn't have a good understanding of a power greater than myself. About as spiritual as I got was like Star Wars. Like, use the Force, Luke. And so we would sit in the back of the room and we'd do AA Yoda. So we go, sobriety now. The 12 steps you must. The 12 steps you must. And we had turned it into a joke, we didn't want to be there. And this man came up to me after the meeting, and he poked me in the chest and said, hey, I heard you telling jokes in the back of the room. And I said, yeah, we were just goofing around. And he said, hey, look at me. I'm your sponsor, and it takes a lawyer to get rid of me. I was like a week sober. I had no idea that's not how AA works. The treatment center told me I needed to get one of those anyways. I was like, all right, well, fine, you're my sponsor. Great. What I didn't know is that a bad batch of heroin had just hit Taos. 3 boys overdosed and died in 1 month. One of those boys was that man's sponsee. And he was hurting. His heart was broken. And he knew from this program that the best thing for him was to work with a newcomer. So he came and grabbed me. His name was Bobby Gibbs. And he said, I'm your sponsor, and it takes a lawyer to get rid of me. And it saved my life. God got me my first sponsor. I didn't pick him. I don't possess that type of planning, and I don't possess that type of timing. That's something bigger than me, you guys. And I found that in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. It found me. The moment I made myself available, it found me. So, we plugged in. We started working the steps. He told me, step 1, Duane, I got to break it to you. You're screwed. You're screwed. You drink whether you want to or not. I said, yeah, that sounds right. That's about right. But then he said, but don't worry, because there's hope right away. Step 2, you can have some hope. And step 2 was not a problem for me, you guys. I didn't have a problem with the God issue. Like I said, I was raised Catholic. I was an altar boy. My mom taught me catechism. I graduated Catholic high school. And, I'm not a practicing Catholic now. But I do say, and I'm very grateful for good sponsorship in AA. What we do in AA is we just seek a God of our own understanding, a God that I can do business with. And we don't really care what it looks like. We don't care where it comes from. But what I learned from good sponsorship is that we also have a responsibility to the newcomer in the meeting. And we just don't get to know. I don't get to know who's sitting in the room tonight. There might be a newcomer, and the only thing he's holding on to is his Catholic faith. And then sometimes I get up here, or people get up here and they say, my name's Duane, I'm an alcoholic, and I'm also a recovering Catholic. And they're doing that to get a joke. They're doing that for a little bit of prestige, to be liked. And we just don't get to know, because that might be a death sentence for that newcomer who's clinging to his faith in Catholicism, and then I stand up here and bash it, and then he feels unwelcome in AA. So we have a responsibility to the newcomer to say, hey, we don't really care what you believe in, we just care that you seek. And in AA, that's one of the most beautiful parts of AA, is you get to seek however you want. And that's given me a lot of freedom. The highway of the Spirit is broad and roomy, and it's like, that's been my experience. As long as I seek, something's there, and it's been a beautiful, beautiful experience. I do have some notes here, so I'm going to reference the notes a little bit. I find that if I don't have the notes, it's usually, my story is usually like my drinking. Like, I just don't know where it's going. I don't know when it's going to end. So when I first sobered up there, started working the steps, I've always been very athletic. I started doing trail running. I was doing long distance trail running in the woods. And I would run so far, I didn't think that I was going to be able to make it back. So I started asking something for help. I started praying for help while I ran. And something shifted inside of me molecularly when you combine the athleticism, the workout, the strain on the body with a connection to a higher power, or the seeking component, looking for something bigger than myself. Through my years of experience, I have a little bit of an understanding that human beings have different parts, and they don't always communicate together. And there's a part of me that is selfish, that is self-centered. There's a part of me that's a monster. But there's also a part of me that's my spirit, or my soul, or my God consciousness, the shoes of inner being. We use many terms because any one term limits it. It's too big to be labeled. And I found whatever that is running in the woods. And I own a few businesses there back home in Albuquerque, New Mexico, one of the businesses that I do, my 9-to-5 job is I own a personal training business. And I teach clients in the gym to do what I found in the woods. We do a calf raise, like, thank you, God, for this moment. Thank you, God, for this moment. It's like I'm teaching them to train their body, to move in an athletic way, invest in the future version of themselves, and then we're also developing a God consciousness or spiritual principles. And it is extremely rewarding for me. I get to combine two of the things that I love most. And step two gave me a whole business. So I'm good with step two. I'm good with step two. But it's been a wild adventure for me. And moving on through early sobriety, we get to step 3. They're like, Duane, you need to turn your will and your life over to the care of God as you understand Him. And I was like, yeah, no problem, I could do that. I got no worries. I got a good relationship with God. I had a conversation with God. I said, God, you can have my will and my life. I will deal with money and women. You can have everything else. I started prioritizing the dollar. It did not take long to get drunk, and it took me 2 weeks to get in the hospital drinking the way I drink, drinking the way we drink. No women were hanging out with me, and I wasn't making any money either. So I had a relapse on step 3, and that relapse gave me my first step. I didn't take a real first step until that relapse. And basically, alcohol kicked my ass enough to where I became willing to do whatever it takes not to die drunk. I was working there at the ski valley in Taos. I don't know if any of you have ever been to the ski valley in Taos. The parking lot is at 9,000 feet. It just goes up from there. I was there in the martini tree. I was drinking the way I drink, blacked out right away. To this day, I don't know what happened. But whatever did happen, I'm very grateful. There are some very big metal stairs up there. There are some very high balconies. There are some rough dudes up there, too. And whatever did happen, I'm grateful for whatever happened. I came out of that blackout in an ambulance coming down the Ski Valley Road. And the only reason I came out of the blackout is because they put IVs in me and they were pumping fluids into my body. I was restrained. I was on the gurney. Don't you know who I am? I was fighting the EMT, trying to wiggle out. I lost a shoe. I was wearing one shoe. I was black and blue all over. I thought I had broke my hip. And the EMTs, they had to cut my pants up to my knees to bandage my knees because I was bleeding so much. And I got to the hospital, and this Al-Anon nurse starts laying it on me. She's like, you're going to die, honey. You're going to die drinking the way you drink. I was like, I know. She brought me all this AA literature printed up off a printer. I was like, I know. Thank you. My sponsor taught me, he says, we don't want to be so anonymous that people can't find us. He used to say, my name's Bobby Gibbs, and I'm in the freaking phone book. And she brought me the phone book. She was like, do you have anybody you could call? I was like, yeah, I guess. I called him. I asked to talk to his girlfriend because I knew she'd be nicer. He said, you got me, what do you want? I said, I'm in the hospital, do you think you could come get me? You will never guess what he did. He came and got me. The nurse went down to the morgue, and she pulled a pair of shoes off of a dead guy. And she brought me the shoes. And she said, here, sweetheart, so you don't, like a nice Al-Anon would. And she said, here, sweetheart, so you don't have to walk out. It was March 27th. It had just snowed. It was spring skiing in Taos. You don't have to walk out in the 6 inches of fresh snow barefoot. Here, sweetheart. This is the picture-perfect image of the alcoholic. My ego had already rebuilt. I'm in the gutter. I'm bleeding. And I'm still judging people's shoes as they walk by. I said, I'm not wearing some dead guy's shoes. Are you kidding me? No. Don't you know who I am? No. I trudged out of that hospital. 6 inches of fresh snow, one shoe. My nickname to this day in AA is One Shoe Lou. I got in Bobby's Jeep. It was an old school Jeep. It just had the clock. And the clock said 5:30. I said, Bobby, is it 5:30 in the morning or 5:30 at night? He says, 5:30 in the morning, Duane. It's 5:30 in the morning. And I remember the detox was rough. I remember telling him too, if I ever do that again, just let me die. Don't come get me next time. But I did reach a point of complete willingness. I was completely willing to do whatever I had to do to not die drunk. I've never seen anybody get drunk after that point of complete willingness. Call it what you want to call it. I call it a window of grace. God gave me this little window of grace. I don't know why we get that. Here in this room, we got that window. I got to step through that window, take action, and revolutionize my life. A lot of people don't get that. Unfortunately, they die. And so it's a miracle that we're here tonight. And, Bobby came in, and he was that outstretched hand of AA that I needed. I'm so extremely, eternally grateful that he saved my life. He said, Duane, whatever I taught you in step 3 didn't work. I want you to pick the 3 men in the home group you're most afraid of, and I want you to interview them like a school project, and I want you to ask each one of them what step 3 means to them. And I said, you want me to do what? He said, go do it. So I did it. I was completely willing. All 3 of them told me the exact same thing. All 3 of them said, Duane, step 3 just means I'm making a commitment to do 4 through 12. It's in 4 through 12 that my will starts to align with God's will. I said, you guys should have told me that in the first place, man. I was just trying to read Russian. And a commitment is something I do whether I want to do it or not. I'm committed to being a good father. We have 3 children. I'm committed to being a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I go to my home group when I don't want to go. I'm committed to getting up in the morning and taking care of me personally, my family, huge responsibility, and then if I can help the community, that's an additional responsibility. That's a good life, you guys. That's a big life. That's a lot of responsibility, but that life gives me meaning, gives me purpose. I spring out of bed in the morning because AA has given me a big life today. AA taught me that commitment in the 3rd step. It taught me that I was psychopathic in my drinking. The psychopath will always sacrifice his future self for instant gratification now. I got to get what I want when I want it now. And what I want is more, and I want it now. And in the 3rd step, we get to flip that 180, get to turn that on its head and say, okay, I'm going to start investing in the future version of Duane. I'm going to sacrifice my selfish desire right now for the best version of me in the future. That's the part of us that could be rocketed into the 4th dimension. That's the part of us that can bend space and time. That's also the part of me that's vertical. That's the consciousness, the shoes of inner being. Very, very interesting ideas. 4 was great, 4 was hard. 4 was a spiritual experience for me. I did step 4, man. It looked like someone took a water bottle and poured it on top of my notebook. It was a spiritual experience for me. It was the first time in 8 years that I had an opportunity to be honest. I hadn't been honest in a long time. And I honestly looked at myself and I did not like what I saw. It's very powerful to have a goal in the distance, to have an aim. We're aiming creatures. We got to have an aim. It's extremely motivating to have something to head towards. But it's also very motivating to have something nasty behind me propelling me forward. And that nasty person was that 4th column in my 4th step. And I don't ever want to be that type of man again. And it's been pushing me forward ever since. Step 5, my sponsor said, the only way you can screw this up is by intentionally leaving something off. You better, say everything you wrote down. And I had, I definitely left stuff off. And he took me fly fishing to do the 5th step. He was a river runs through it kind of guy. We would watch Ralph Lauren westerns when it started to snow. And I did it. I read my 4th step to him. He asked, "Did you leave anything off?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "What was it?" And I said the thing that I never thought I was going to say to anybody ever. And I learned I was an average drunk. He said, you haven't done anything in AA that I haven't done, Duane, or another member of AA hasn't done. But what also happened for me in the fifth step was I started to look people in the eye. I started to feel like I belonged, like I earned my seat. I know I earned it with my drinking, but I was starting to do the things you guys were doing. And so I started to be able to look people in the eye and feel like I belonged in Alcoholics Anonymous. A lot of the anxiety that I experienced as a newcomer went away after that. And that is a miracle that I suggest if you're new, you don't deprive yourself of. 6 and 7 really bleed together. Step 6 is willingness. Step 7 is humility. Step 6 is me trying to fix myself and falling on my face. And then, 7 is allowing God to shape and mold me and inviting God into these areas of my life. If God can help me stop drinking, why wouldn't he help me stop stealing? A thief is not going to teach me how to stop stealing. I was in it for the high. I'm the type of alcoholic sitting on the curb 3 months sober in handcuffs because I can't stop stealing. And so I learned I get to invite God into all these areas of my life, into my character defects. Initially, in early sobriety, it was very glaringly obvious. Okay, stop stealing, bro. Stop lying. Okay, be a little honest. Now, 16 years later, the character defects exist in my head for the most part. It's a lot of judgment. There's a lot of resentment. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of fear. So those are my thoughts. My character defects exist in my thoughts. On average, every human being has 60,000 thoughts a day. We're alcoholics, man. We probably have like 70,000. On average, 98 to 99% of those thoughts are negative or repetitive. What's 2% of 60,000? It's 1,200. Do you think I'm going to have a good life with 1,200 good thoughts and 58,000 nasty thoughts a day? My life is shit. That's self-will run riot. So my job with 6 and 7 is to bump those numbers up, invite God into my thought life. God direct my thinking. God direct my thinking. How about thank you, God, for this moment? Thank you, God, for this moment. These are mantras. These are prayers that I carry with me always. I do deserve this much love, abundance, and success. I do deserve this much love, abundance, and success. Thank you, God, for this moment. Those mantras, those prayers, those are thoughts. So if my job is to bump those numbers up, I try and hit the mantras hard. And that's what I try and teach people that I work with as well. In step 7, humility permeates everything that we do. I'm going to go a little off here, quantum physics real quick, but my wife will give me the sign if I'm getting too crazy. If I asked you to describe this room, or asked most people to describe this room, how would you do it? You would say, well, it's a big hall. There's high ceilings, it's got nice carpet, there's a bunch of people, there's chairs, there's a podium, there's a stage, there's some chilly willy guy up front talking. That's how most people would describe this room. That's how I would describe this room. But it's very easy to miss the most important part of the room. The most important part of the room is the space that makes the room possible. You can put the room here if the space didn't exist. Well, humility in Alcoholics Anonymous, that's the space that makes AA possible. That's that magic, that's that vertical dimension that we exist in when we're working with another alcoholic. And I've learned that when I have an aim in the distance, a goal, a person I want to be, the future version of myself, and I start heading in that direction, I started getting those dopamine hits that I used to get from alcohol. I start feeling good about the man that I am. It's not exactly the goal. It's not the attainment of the thing. It's just recognizing myself on the desired path. The deal with that's called intrinsic motivation. The deal with that, dopamine releases, it doesn't have to ever end. It's kind of like a spiral, and it's like a spiral upward. It's like, yes, it's good now, but it's only getting better. Yes, it's good now, but it's only getting better. And that's what 6 and 7 has given for me. Given to me. It's a commitment to a way of life that can continue to improve. And It's a wild, wild ride, man. 8 was a list my sponsor had me put on the top of my 8th step. He said, "You are not on step 9. Just write the list." Step 8 is about forgiveness. My first child was born when I was 24 and I was 3 years sober. It was very, very evident that I was not going to be with her mom. We were going to have the baby, but we weren't going to be in a relationship. And my ego could not take it. What is my Catholic grandmother going to say? "Oh my God, my bastard daughter, we can't do this, oh my God." And my buddy in AA, I knew he had 2 daughters, so I asked him, "Hey, what do you think of this? How do you do about this?" And he said, "Duane, the answer is love." He said, "Duane, the answer is love, but the key is forgiveness. Forgiveness will swing that door open so that you can experience love." And so when I was doing my running, that was my mantra. God, fill my heart with forgiveness. God, fill my heart with forgiveness, over and over and over. And then something inside of me molecularly shifted. My grandmother was like super happy about it. My daughter is a phenomenal young lady now, 13 years old. She knows who her father is, and she has 2 healthy living environments rather than one that's all negative, or 2 that's pinned against each other. So these are that's another gift from the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, man. In the 9th step stories are the best stories we have in AA, in my opinion. This is really some of that magic stuff. In my drinking, I told you guys I was a blackout drinker. I attacked my brother in a blackout. This is someone I would consider a best friend growing up. I didn't speak to him for a number of years after I was first sober. And he's 2 years younger than me. Excuse me. 9 times out of 10, when I was doing my amends, well, every time out of 10, it's good, you run it by your sponsor first. It's good to get my selfish heart out of the way, because I want to have the conversation a particular way. And, it's good to have guidance with the 9th step, of course, because my sponsor could pick through it and say, nope, get that out of there. Nope, you don't say that. Nope, you don't even owe an amends on that. So obviously we get help from sponsorship first. There's a portion in the amends process where I say, I was wrong. And then there's another portion in the amends process where I say, did I leave anything out? I'm a blackout drinker, man. I left out a lot. And, 9 times out of 10, I'd make the amends, and the individual I was talking to, they would say, "We're so happy, Duane, just keep doing what you're doing." I'd ask, is there anything you'd like to say, or did I leave anything out? "Keep doing what you're doing, Duane. We're so proud of you. We love you." My brother didn't do that. So I went down the list. I said, I have not been a good big brother to you, bro, and I was wrong. These are the things I did. Boom, boom, boom. I said the things that broke my heart that I did. And then I got to the portion where I said, "Hey, so would you like to say anything? Did I leave anything out?" And he told me, yeah, you did leave something out. I said, "What?" He said, "Well, you don't know the role you made me play in the family." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Duane, I was 15 years old and I had to protect everybody from you." He said, "You stole my adolescence." And it cracked me open, man. It's very, very good to have a goal in the distance, something that you're striving for. But it might be more powerful to have something nasty behind you propelling you forward. I don't ever want to be the type of man that steals someone's adolescence because of his selfish self-centeredness, because his lack of control. It was one of the greatest gifts I've received in Alcoholics Anonymous, and it was hard to hear. I got to be his best man at his wedding. I got to tell that same story at his wedding and say now, he has his wife who's asking him to be the best version of him. And when my daughter was born, I was living with him in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And when I was at my limit with a newborn baby, he would step in and he would say, "Give her to me." And him and her are very close as well. And so I got my best friend back from Alcoholics Anonymous and from the 9th step. In 10, my lineage is super strong on 10, man. They love it. They call it sex status and security. 10 is about emotional sobriety. For us, I was taught sex, status, and security. If I have the right sex, if I have the right status, and if I have the right security, then I'll be okay. I'm constantly seeking these outside things to make me okay on the inside. Bobby used to tell me, Duane, you have a God-sized hole in the middle of you, and you're trying to fill it up with that sex, status, and security. It's not going to work. So we have that horizontal plane of existence. This is the world of form. Everything form-based. And if I identify in my horizontal world of existence, I'm headed for trouble. These are my jobs, this is my money, these are my roles, role as parent, role as father, role as AA member, anything form-based. Then you introduce that vertical dimension, the realm of spirit. God consciousness, love, eternity, soul, shoes of inner being, spirit of the universe. The deal with the vertical dimension is it's eternal. Those things aren't going anywhere. So what I learned in the 10th step is I want my identity to be grounded in the realm of the vertical. And then I get to honor my roles in the horizontal world of existence. I get to show up really well for my job when I know that's not who I am. I get to be present for my kids when I know they're going to outgrow me. They're not going to need me in their 20s the way they need me when they're 5. I'm here to be of service to them. I don't want to be identified with the world of form. I want to be identified in the realm of spirit. And that's been an incredible gift that Alcoholics Anonymous has given me. An interesting perspective on that is, human beings have different parts. I have my selfish, self-centered ego, and then I have my spirit. Maybe the 10th step is something like my ego coming to my spirit and saying, okay, we'll do it your way, because the way I'm doing it is not working. And then the spirit says something like, thank you. I will bless you back. And I started getting a good life. For some reason, when we show up and we're of service to the still suffering alcoholic, when I wash coffee cups, they made me wash coffee cups in my first meeting. I didn't even drink the coffee. I was like, no, I'm not going to wash that. But they're like, we don't care, wash the coffee cups. They were teaching me to do something good for somebody else. When I'm of service to somebody else, for some reason, God seems to like it. I start feeling good about the person I am on the inside. And I want that to be wrapped up in the realm of spirit. 11 is prayer meditation. I have a stationary bike in my living room, and I hit that stationary bike at 3 a.m. every morning. If it's the weekend, I do it at 6. God willing, July 1st will be 3 consecutive years. I haven't missed a single day. I have a cardio practice. It's 3 a.m. and I hit it hard. That's when I pray. That's my time for prayer. That's my time to connect to Source. That's my time for mantra. It's very vertexual for me. It's like a circular motion over and over and over again. So I'm saying the prayer. Thank you, God, for this moment. Thank you, God, for this moment. I have that morning practice, and it sets the tone for the day for me. We get to develop that God consciousness with step 11. And we get to experience that fourth dimension a little bit, the part of me that can bend space and time. It's so cool that you guys call this the aim for Ames. We're aiming creatures. Evolutionally, we're built on a hunting platform. I have to have an aim. I have to have a goal in my life. I have to have a direction to head in. Otherwise, I'm lost. And when I have a worthwhile goal in the distance, again, that's when I start getting those hits of dopamine. Alcoholics Anonymous gave me the goal in the distance of be a good man. Be the man that we can depend on. Be the man that your family can depend on, that the community can depend on. Head in that direction. And, it's wild that that's what my life gets to look like today. It's wild that I even think about stuff like that. What type of man do you want to be? I want to be better than the man I was when I walked in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, but I also want to be better than the man I was when I woke up this morning. And that's a gift of sobriety. That's a gift of sobriety, but one of the prayers that helps that gift is, God, help me stay hungry. God, help me stay hungry. God, keep me teachable. And so, those are all great prayers that I try and practice. The meditation part, trying to meditate is meditating. The art of meditation is trying to meditate, having a thought enter my mind, and then not giving myself a hard time about it. My sponsor for years I'm insane, you guys. I get on the bike at 3 a.m. My sponsor for years has been trying to get me to sit still. I'm like, I'll run in place. But trying to meditate is meditating. And the 12-step, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message and practice these principles. Alcoholics Anonymous has made my life a blessing to live, you guys. The moment that I opened myself up for the spiritual principles in AA, they seem to show up. I told you guys, the majority of my character defects, it's in my thinking. Now, the majority. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still do bad stuff. But I judge people a lot. I was at the gym where I work, and there's a guy that comes into the gym, and he's on a walker. And it is just really easy for my ego to be superior to a guy on a walker. I'm like, look at this cripple coming in here. That's the place he should be, trying to work out and do good for himself and better his health. And I want to be superior. So I caught the thought, right? Like that's a judgmental thought. My job is to catch the thought. Then, if I'm present enough, I can invite God into that process. So I try and pray, God help me not judge. God help me not judge. God help me not judge. At that time in my life, this was 2 Decembers ago, my partner and I, we were going through a difficult time in our relationship. We were even kind of contemplating like whether we were going to stay together or not. Like, should we separate? So this guy's at the gym, and he gets on the piece of equipment that I wanted to use. I'm like, yep, of course, yep. He gets on my machine. And my ego is just raging. But I'm trying to combat it with the prayer, with the spiritual principles that AA has taught me. God, help me not judge. God, help me not judge. I see that he's getting off the machine. I take a sanitized wipe over there. I say, hey, his name's Ronald. I said, Ronald, are you getting off that machine? He's like, yeah, I'm done. I said, let me get a wipey for you. And he says, get a what? And I said, let me get I get a wipey to clean it. I have 3 kids. I say, let me get a wipey all the time. Flies out of his mouth. Oh, I bet your kids really love you. People don't talk to me like that. No one in my life has ever told me, oh, I bet your kids really love you. I was praying. I was inviting God into this situation. God, help me not judge. God, help me offer presence. And God spoke through Ronald and gave me this massive gift. We were going through a hard time. We were thinking about separating in the relationship. If she leaves, who does she take with her? She takes my kids. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. It's like, oh, it's on me to fix this? I could do that. I could work better at being a partner. I could do that. The moment that I make myself available, the magic happens. I have to be willing to be available, but God seems to step in when that takes place. We got 3 kids. They're a nuisance, man. They're loud. They bicker. They beat the heck out of each other. This is just a daily occurrence at my house. We got one in jiu-jitsu, so he's getting even better at it. And I'm a selfish, self-centered alcoholic. I want the house a particular way. I want quiet. I want things neat. I'm going to clean every day. And that's not happening with 3 kids and 2 dogs. And so I'm judging my kids. I'm like, these guys, these mothers. They don't know how good they got it. They just take me for granted. Caught the thought. I must have been on the beam that day. I caught the thought. God, help me not judge. God, help me not judge. God, help me be of service to my 5-year-old. He's doing what he's supposed to be doing. God, help me be of service to my 5-year-old. My home group in Albuquerque meets on Wednesday nights. It's called Strange Mental Blank Spots. And we meet at 6:30. We have a business meeting on the 3rd Wednesday of every month. It was the 3rd Wednesday. And it's just a long day for me. I get up at 3 a.m. That business meeting AA night, I don't get home till like 8:30 or 9. So on those nights, I don't really get to see my kids. But I had been saying the prayer, and I had been working on not judging them. I got a phone call while I was at the meeting, and Emma had given the 5-year-old the phone. And he left me a message that said, "Hey, Dad, I really love you. I know I'm not going to get to see you tonight because it's your AA meeting, but I love you, and I'll see you tomorrow." I said, how the heck does a selfish, self-centered, judgmental alcoholic get a call like that, get a life like that? I have a life like that where my kid calls me and says, "I love you, Dad." Maybe it has something to do with trying to practice these principles in our daily affairs. Maybe. You know, alcoholism runs on both sides of my family, you guys. I got multiple family members that have died from this. My aunts and uncles on one side taught me how to do this very early. We would do outside issues in the bathroom and then go back to hang out with the rest of the party. So alcoholism runs in my family until it ran into me and the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Did you know that obesity, unhealthy lifestyle runs in my family? Until it ran into me and the spiritual discipline that was instilled in me in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. Did you know that scarcity, lack, fear, mindset, mentality runs in my family? Until it ran into me and the spiritual program that we try and practice here in AA, that I was taught by you guys. You know, and in closing, I just want to say that Alcoholics Anonymous has made my life a blessing to live. I don't do this perfectly. I try and practice every day, but at least I have something to do every day. I have a direction to head in. I have an aim. Alcoholics Anonymous has given me my aim. And I'm extremely grateful to be here, so thank you for hearing me tonight.